Welcome to Doing the Work, a Naples Integrated Recovery podcast. My name is Brian, and this space is for anyone who's tired of surviving the same emotional and behavioral loops, whether that's anxiety, trauma, addiction, or problems in your relationships. Around here, we cut the surface level advice and sugarcoating, no platitudes or bumper sticker wisdom. We focus on clarity, responsibility, emotional discipline, and the courage to look at yourself honestly so that you can stop repeating old patterns and start living with intention instead of reaction. Let's get into it. Hello, everybody. This episode was recorded several months ago, and I listened today, March 28th, to what I was going to put out tomorrow, March 29th, and it was so boring and so academic and so dry that I decided I must rewrite and re-record the whole thing. So for like the 3 people who actually enjoy neuroscience stuff, thank you for listening. I'm going to try to make the topic that I had today on oxytocin more relatable by sharing more shit about me to make it understandable, because it seems like the feedback I'm getting from people is that I need to bring the material to life more instead of being so academic. Otherwise, I'd just go teach at FGCU, right? So, today's topic is why you can't let go even though you know better. Have you ever had a toxic partner that you were just like magnetically drawn to even though you knew it was not good for you? It's a pattern I see all the time. I have probably 5 clients right now that are inside of this cycle, and many of them, their friends are so sick of them that they're like, don't even talk about that guy anymore. I don't even feel bad for you because you've been in this cycle for 3 or 5 months. Have you ever lived that? I'll talk a little bit about what that has been like for me, and you're not crazy. So hopefully that's a little bit validating. But a lot of these people say, I know that he's not good for me. They are not confused. They know the pattern and they know the cycle very well. They can walk me through every bit of what is happening, and then I come up with a plan and an email about no contact, all the stuff. In fact, one client, we're almost through March here, and I read him an email from December where I said, I've been telling you for like 3 months what you need to do, but also that's okay. That's like field research. Sometimes, I mean, listen, I drank alcoholically for 15 years with knowing that it was better and didn't stop. So, okay, I get it. No problem. I mean, you got to do as much field research as you got to do. But they're still in it. They leave, they go back. And the part that messes with them is this. I don't understand why I'm so attached when I know he's toxic for me. They think the issue is that they don't understand enough. And that's not the issue. So you see this in relationships more than anywhere else. When things feel off, there's tension, inconsistency, unpredictability, and then a moment where there is like alignment, a really good conversation, maybe a real hot, passionate sex that you feel reconnected again, a few hours that it feels close again, and then everything kind of goes back to the way it was. Nothing ever gets resolved, but it feels like it did momentarily, so you stay. This is where people get stuck. They assume that the feelings internally mean that something has changed, but it didn't. The bond tightened, that's a different thing. So I've been in a relationship like this. I'm on pretty decent terms with most of my exes, I think. But one in particular, it was just like so volatile, so toxic, so bad, and it was completely unstable. This is in my active addiction years, and I mean, it was just a blur of heavy blackout drinking, sex, constant volatility. It was messy. he was unpredictable, very guarded, super fake, false front, and every once in a while I would see something very real that he would say something just a little bit vulnerable, and I'd be like, oh, there's a good person in there. I can save him, right? Well, I wasn't a saver back then. I was still such a mess. But I would latch onto that immediately. Like, that's who he really is. That's the real person. And his behavior showed me everything that was the exact opposite. And none of it felt calm. It was consuming. I was constantly wondering, are we okay? How are we doing? Where do I stand? Constantly, checking, hoping for reassurance. Did you text me? Did you text me? And we'd be on again, off again, on again, off again. It never felt any clearer, and I was more and more magnetically sucked in. And everyone around me was very clear about, that guy is a fucking mess. Will you let it go? What is wrong with you? And I could see that too. I knew it was a mess. I wasn't confused about how messy it was, but I couldn't detach from it the way that I thought that I should be able to. And every time that we would reconnect, even after all of that high and low and all that mess, it was like a reset, like we're good again. Same pattern, same outcome. Most people try to explain this in, like one of two ways, like either I'm codependent, I'm broken, or it must be real intense, or it must be something that's really real. And neither of them actually explains what's going on. There's a system inside all of that that decides who you attach to. Your body has an attachment system that does not run on logic. And when you spend a lot of time with someone, especially if there's emotional intensity, sex, closeness, add in alcohol and marijuana or whatever your things may be, and then some distance, and then reconnection, you are strengthening a bond every time that you go through that cycle. And oxytocin is part of that. And it doesn't make you choose well. It just reinforces whatever you keep attaching to. At the same time, your stress system is also getting pulled into. Cortisol is active when things feel uncertain or unpredictable or inconsistent. So now you've got both happening together. Super bonding and super stress. You feel super close and then super on edge. Attached, then not settled. And that's why it feels so strong, and that's why it's so hard to leave. Because you're trying to think your way out of something, and your body is actively reinforcing every time that you go back into it. So this is the part that people don't like. You can feel deeply attached to someone and know that they are poison for you. You can feel closer after things fall apart instead of clearer. And you can know that something is not right and still be magnetically drawn to it. It's not confusion, it's the system doing exactly what it's built to do. People confuse three different things: intensity, attachment, and stability, and these are not the same. Intensity feels like real strong emotion, urgency, and constant focus. Attachment feels like difficulty letting go, coming back after distance, or staying connected even when it hurts. And stability feels like knowing that things are predictable, that repair is actually going to really repair and settle things, and not needing to constantly monitor everything, check their location, check their messages. People feel the first two, intensity and attachment, and they might assume that they have the third, stability, but that's where everything goes sideways. So, after any interaction, ask yourself this: do I feel calmer, or do I feel more pulled in, more focused on them, more aware of what they're doing, more invested in how to fix things? That second state gets mistaken for closeness all the time, but it's not the same thing. So let's break down why some relationships feel steady, others feel consuming, even when both feel strong. Because Most people are using the wrong signals to decide what's actually healthy, and until that changes, the pattern is going to keep repeating. So let's stay with something simple. 2 relationships. Both feel strong, both feel meaningful, both feel like they matter. But in one of them, you're thinking about the person in the relationship constantly. A small shift affects you immediately. You're watching, tracking, adjusting, constantly feeling pulled in. And in the other one, you may not really think about them through the whole day. You might check in at lunchtime. Hey, thought of you. Hope the day's going well. You feel steady when you're not with them. Knowing that there is a conflict, that maybe things aren't perfect, doesn't wreck your whole day. And you're not spending the whole day trying to manage them or the relationship. Many people will look at these 2 and assume that the first is like real. That's love, because it feels stronger. Well, it just feels like more is happening. The second one is quieter, and that can be misread. The difference has nothing to do with how much you care about the person. It's about what your system is doing in the relationship. In one, your attention is activated, and in the other, your system is settled. Activation feels like scanning for any changes, reading into tone, trying to stay connected, maybe reacting quickly. And settled feels like not needing to check, not needing to interpret anything, being able to say, you know what, I think I'm going to go take a walk, take a leave and come back without any kind of a shift in the relationship. Here's where it flips. Activated gets labeled as chemistry, settled gets labeled as something's missing. When your attention is pulled in, it creates a sense of importance. You're thinking about them, you're replaying conversations, daydreaming, watching for any shifts that might happen. So it feels like this must matter more. It does matter, but it means that your system is really activated and engaged. That doesn't mean that it's actually stable. The more you stay engaged, the more this bond tightens. Not because things are going well, but because you're staying connected. You are checking, adjusting, and trying to keep it together. And the repetition strengthens the attachment, even if the experience itself is not consistent. So I'm going to bring it back to my example with Toxic X. The relationship I mentioned, there was nothing steady about it at all. He was inconsistent, unpredictable, still tied to his ex, and I was constantly tracking it. Where is he? I wonder if we're okay. What just shifted? Wonder why he left. He had a tone. How come he looked at me that way? And that didn't weaken the attachment. It actually made the attachment stronger because my attention never left the relationship. Look at what happens after conflict. In a steady relationship, you have conflict, and then you have repair, and then things settle back down. You can feel things drop. You're not carrying it anymore. You feel, you have some ice cream in bed and watch Netflix together, and things feel settled. In a consuming one, the conflict happens, and then there's some version of reconnecting or sex or whatever, and you're still all keyed up, thinking about it, watching for the next change, trying to read where things stand. You may feel closer, but nothing is calmer. And that distinction is important because a lot of people read that closeness as progress. When I started doing couples work, I tried to focus mostly on communication because I thought that was like the main breakdown, but it's part of it, but it helps in many relationships and circumstances, but it usually does not fix a pattern like this because you can say all the right things and still leave an interaction feeling very guarded or unsafe. And that's because your system is tracking something more basic like tone, consistency, and follow through. So go back to the polyvagal episode that I aired like a week or so ago, and that episode kind of conceptualizes this. But if those things don't line up, then nothing ever feels settled. if you are used to living in an activated state, that you jump from one toxic partner to the other, and then you finally have a healthy relationship, things can feel kind of flat because you're not on that roller coaster of those extreme highs and then the extreme lows and flooded in cortisol and fear and chasing. No urgency, no constant pull, no need to monitor. And a part of you may start to question, I don't know if he's the one. There's nothing wrong with that relationship. It's that your body feels unfamiliar in safe territory. So pay attention to this. If you are with someone, do you feel like you have to stay engaged in order to keep it stable, or does it stay stable without you managing it? That tells you how strong the connection really feels. So in this next part, I'm going to break down why this pattern repeats, even if people see it clearly, because most people can recognize everything that we have just talked about, but then they go right back into it. Like my client that emailed back in December, stay away, and here we are almost in April, same circumstance over and over again. And you know, I'm every bit as guilty, so truly there's no judgment. Like, I get it, I've lived it. So you recognize it, then you look at a relationship and go, oh yeah, he was toxic, or oh yeah, I was constantly on edge. I knew that wasn't working. And the question becomes, why did you go back then? Why repeat it? Seeing the pattern doesn't break the pattern. I could speak to that about like my drinking days. I knew that the cycle was going to be wake up feeling terrible, spend many hours recovering from all of the drinking, go to work, and then by the end of the day, even though in the morning I was like, I am not going to drink that much, right at the end of the day, right back to the same thing again. I mean, this is how cycles work with our neurochemistry. The system does not update through insight alone, it updates through repetition. So what you experience over and over again is what your system learns. Not what you agree with, not what they say to you, but what you repeat. If closeness repeatedly feels like unpredictability, needing to track the other person, trying to keep things from slipping again, or short moments of connection that you feel like a reset or that they're breadcrumbing you, your system learns this is what connection feels like. If closeness repeatedly feels steady, predictable, repair that settles things, and space without losing connection, then your system learns this is what connection feels like. That's what gets wired in, whichever one you choose. Why? You can leave and still go back because the bond isn't based on logic, it's based on what's familiar. You can recognize the pattern, you can know how it feels. Even if it's chaos, it's a known chaos, and then when something is known, it pulls. Back to that relationship. Every time that relationship broke, I had enough distance to see it clearly. This is not stable, this is not working, and then we'd reconnect, and it wouldn't fix anything. And I would just reset the attachment system enough for me to just go back into it. Same volatility, same unpredictability, same outcome. So if you have friends that say, avoid him, he's toxic, don't go back, why doesn't that work? Well, the advice assumes that the decision is happening at a level of logic, but logic is not part of this. By the time that you are deciding, the pull is already there. The system is already engaged. That's why people feel like they are overriding themselves, because they actually are. They try to outthink it, like this time I'll choose differently. They try to control their behavior. They do like I'm going to block or unblock. I won't respond. I'm not going to engage. I'm only going to engage on LinkedIn. I'm going to delete them on A, B, and C, but I'll keep this other thing open. And all of these different techniques, they work for a short window until the same pull shows up again. What actually shifts things? It's slower than you want, and it's more basic. You start paying attention to what actually happens to you in the relationship, not the story, not their potential, but the actual experience. Do you feel settled or do you feel activated? Then you start making small moves based on that, not perfectly, but just enough to interrupt the pattern sometimes. Let something steady take time instead of dismissing it. Notice when something pulls you in, but you don't follow it. Again, not perfect. Like they say in 12-step programs, progress, not perfection. You got to actually do the work, though. You can't just say progress, not perfection, and then not do anything. What this actually looks like over time is probably not some big shift. You just stop thinking about it all day. You are not checking your phone nonstop. You notice if you started replaying a conversation and then you stop yourself. You are not trying to read where you stand. Either you're with them and it's steady, or you leave and it's steady, and you don't get pulled in and you don't feel like you have to manage everything. It just holds. So ask yourself if you are potentially using the wrong markers or signals in a relationship. Most people are reading intensity as meaning, or attachment as safety, or activation as connection, and now you know that those are all different things. Once you know the difference, it doesn't mean that you don't still feel it. It just means that you catch all of this sooner, and sometimes you make a different move, and that different move can be enough to start changing the pattern. Not all at once, but over time. So when you see your person, ask yourself, do I feel calmer or more magnetically pulled in? After conflict, ask yourself, do things feel settled, or am I still kind of keyed up and scanning? During the week, am I living my life or am I tracking them? When you feel a pull, is this steady or activating? These are moments where the pattern is either running or can start to shift. You don't need it to be perfect. You just need to notice it when it's happening and make slightly different moves sometimes. That's enough to change the pattern. Not all at once, over time. That's doing the work. And less grad school jargon. Thanks for spending the time with me. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with somebody who may need to hear it. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others around you. Remember that we're all doing the best that we can with the tools that we currently have, and we are all capable of growing past them. If you'd like to reach out or connect, send me an email, brian@naplesintegratedrecovery.com. I hope to hear from you there. And in the meantime, thanks again for listening, and I'll see you on the next one.